Hello, everybody. This is Angelique Tsong from Letlovecometoyou with a special guest, Jan Tiller. And Jan is the inspiring founder of Healer Zone. But apart from that, she is also a coach, a therapist, and a relationship skills coach, transformational coach, actually. And we had an interview about a very important topic. The topic was creating healthy relationships. And so we had a very long discussion about what that actually entails and the journey that all of us have to make when we sometimes come from backgrounds that might have been maybe abusive or maybe a bit unhealthy, and how that then echoes in the relationships that we tend to end up in, and how we can change that. Jen, can you explain a little bit to our viewers of what they can expect when they're going to listen to our interview? I mean, we discussed so much.
We did. We covered such a lot of territory, didn't we?
Yeah.
Well, I started out by explaining a little about my history and why I'm so passionate about it. But the key things for the listeners are that they're going to be getting insights into how they get where they are and how they can move on from it. Ultimately, that's the key thing, because we all know how we feel at the time, but quite often we feel very stuck with where we are and we have no sense of what we can do, how we can take charge and move on.
Yes.
I think that can be very distressing for people when they feel like they've been in a situation for a long time and they don't know how to move forward. And in our talk, we discussed ways of setting healthy boundaries and practical ways to view the interactions that we have with people, to maybe assess things a little differently to the way we've done them in the past.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what's going on, it's very difficult to change anything. It's not reasonable to expect yourself to be able to change if you don't have a clear perspective on what's going on.
And I think what you're talking about was that when you come from an unhealthy dynamic in a certain family, for instance, or a certain context, you don't actually know what healthy looks like. And then you keep attracting or creating those type of dynamics with new partners. You might even, let's say, divorce or leave specific partners, but somehow you start attracting these same type of relationships into your life again. And your program and what we discussed was how you yourself broke out of that pattern, and how you then set about really designing a course for people to actually understand what they're dealing with and how they can change all of that. And we also discussed some of the changes that your clients have been through, and that so it means that your program was not just about an intellectual understanding, but it was also making all the specific changes required to actually create something totally new that was possible. Yeah.
To understand that, in fact, a lot of the things we believe about ourselves are not built in necessarily. They're acquired, they're habitual, but that when you have the skills and the understanding of the process of changing them, they become available to you to be different. So the stages of the skills is a basic MOT. Where are you now? How did you get here? What's your history? I think at least most people know their history. At least that's a great starting point.
Yeah.
But the next step of understanding how to move on from that and how to identify your values and what's really important to you is an exercise people often don't bother to do. They look at what's important to other people. How can they please somebody else? But if you don't please yourself first, and I'm not talking about selfishness here, I'm talking about living in a state of joy because you're creating a great life.
Yes.
You don't know what your priorities are towards even beginning to do that. It's very hard to attract a person who can support you in it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what we have to do. We have a relationship in which we have a dynamic that continues and maintains the intentions we hold. This is not wishful thinking. This is active awareness of what we want. And hopefully we do the same for our partner.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've come from a background in which you don't know how to say, I need this, or it's really important to me that we explore that, it's very hard to do that in the next relationship, because we take who we are with us to the next one.
Yes.
So we can run away, but we can't hide from ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's really important to recognize that our unhealthy relationships and the unhealthy people we may interact with are just showing up a reflection of where we are.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's not in any sense to talk about blame. It's not that it's our fault if we don't know how to change that.
Yeah.
We do the best we can. Every last one of us does the best that we can. You know what's really special? When you know how to create a healthy relationship, even if it's a fledgling one, where even with family and friends and colleagues, because they need to be healthy too.
Yeah.
But you know that once you've done it once, deliberately, purposefully, then you can always do it again, and maybe even better the next time around.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that I'm in a relationship with somebody who loves and cares for me. And it's mostly a very good relationship. Not perfect, but we work on it together. We do work on it deliberately together.
Yeah.
But if the worst happened tomorrow and my beloved fell under a bus, I'd grieve and I'd be sad, but I would have an absolute certainty that I could create another relationship that was healthy and loving and supportive again when I was ready.
And I want to stress that, people might be listening to this and thinking, what does she know about my youth that was so wounding, and I've been in therapy for years and I try my best, where is she coming from? I really want to stress that actually when I interviewed you, and I only know you as a successful therapist, founder of a healer community, that I was very surprised to know that you actually came from a background that wasn't really role model, and that even your mother, when you actually started making changes in your life and your mother found the courage to actually make changes in her own life, that she, implementing these changes, actually also started attracting, a very healthy, loving relationship into her life. And so we're not blaming the men or we're not blaming the women. We're just saying that sometimes the templates that we have from our family backgrounds are not the best ones. And what I loved about your program, Jen, is that you actually have a skills training background in government. And what we discussed at length was that although sometimes these destructive patterns in our lives and in the people that we hang out with or that are our peers seem to be an identity, what you really, emphasize, and what I truly believe as well, because, it's also the work that I do, is I believe that a lot of healthy skills regarding communication, regarding boundary setting, regarding loving yourself, regarding, making relationships work so that you truly honor yourself and honor the integrity of the other person, they are actually skills. It's not that, you don't need years of therapy. Maybe you just need to learn how to...
Therapy is valuable, but
yeah.
Right.
At some point, it's more than therapy. It's also about skills training and clarity and actually trying new ways of being. And that is what we discussed at length in the work that you do with your clients.
Absolutely. Well, coming from a background of a mother who was abused and agoraphobic, I didn't have a lot of healthy role models. I had to learn everything from a place where I didn't really believe these possibilities existed.
Yeah.
So I really do believe in the value of gaining skills so that you can test the waters and explore how they work. And try. You don't have to magically change overnight, but you can go one step at a time into a place where you understand how to connect with somebody in a healthy way, how to really know how to say yes please or no thank you with respect and kindness, but absolute certainty, so that people do not disrespect you. And and watching my whole family shift, it was as if I forged ahead and made the changes and then my mother changed, and then my daughter changed.
Yes, you
And
told
the
me about your
dynamics
daughter.
of that
Yeah.
change,
Yeah.
just the ripple on the pond effect is quite extraordinary. You can't change other people, but you can change yourself, and the effects knock on out into the world. People that you know and love grow from it.
Yeah.
And if somebody is not prepared to grow, you know what? They tend to just leave your life.
Yes.
They
Absolutely.
let you get on with being yourself. You don't have to fix it all to make changes that are worth having.
Yeah.
You know? And let's face it, any improvement is worth having if your life is full of distress because your relationships don't support you.
Yeah.
You know? But mind you, there are times when, as you said, sometimes we just have to leave. We do have to move so we can create the space for ourselves to make those changes. Sometimes we need the mental and physical space to just be us for a while and grow.
Because
and sometimes we can do it in the relationship, and the dynamics of the relationship will change, which is quite fascinating. But powerful and empowering, which is the most important thing, because women who are not in healthy relationships tend not to feel as if they have much power. And it's true for men in unhealthy relationships.
Yeah.
The behavior that comes from that might vary. Some people get very defensive and very angry. Some get very depressed and sad.
Yes.
And some people just trudge along day to day and think that's all they can have. And understanding that as you grow and learn these skills, you can have a different life. And that it, as I say, knocks on to other areas of your life. So if you're confident in your relationship, you might become more confident at work. You might become more confident in your social life. You might have skills that can transfer from one area of your life to another.
Yeah.
And that's really fun when you start to see that. You know, when I first married my current husband, who is husband number 2, I was married for 20 years the first time around, and it wasn't a bad marriage, but it wasn't a healthy one either. It was, you know, I was just surviving, not thriving. And my second husband and I, as we went through the year of our marriage, so the 6 months before to the 6 months after our marriage, we went and did our advanced NLP training, neuro-linguistic programming, for those who don't know, our training together as a wedding present to each other, so that we improved our communication skills. We did that actively and deliberately because those skills were not available in our previous relationships.
And you knew by then that you didn't want to be the blind leading the blind.
Exactly.
Hoping for the best.
I was not going to repeat
Hoping for the best, because love is more than enough. Actually, what we're saying, sometimes in these unhealthy relationships, there's also a lot of love. There might be not a lot of resourcefulness or a lot of bad training in terms of how people, you know, voice their anger, how people make themselves clear, and how they get their needs met, for instance.
And quite often it's how one person interprets what the other says. The other one might genuinely be doing their very best to express themselves, and the other party just doesn't understand because they make a different meaning of the event. Think about the simplest of examples, a bunch of red roses. If you have had a loving relationship and your partner hands you red roses, the chances are you will simply be delighted, give them a kiss, pop them in a vase of water, and continue with your lovely day. If you've had a relationship in the past in which a partner gave you red roses whenever they were playing up, shall we say, a new partner with no history of doing that gives you red roses, and the chances are you will immediately feel all the bad feelings that you associated with them in the past.
Yes, oh, definitely.
You know,
and it happens unconsciously.
Completely unconsciously.
Like automatic.
And the partner is going, what? I really tried. I made a real effort. I spent a fortune on these flowers. What have I done wrong? And it can take quite a bit to ask a different question. If you ask a quality question, which is part of the course, then you can change somebody's responses. such as what is important to you about this is a great question, as opposed to why did you do that?
Yeah.
Because
Why did
one
you not
is,
like it?
yeah,
more?
one opens up possibilities and makes people think differently.
Yeah.
And the other one is a blaming thing, which is going to set off defensiveness.
Yeah.
Very simple, but massive difference in the quality of the communication between those two people. And that's a skill. It can be learned.
Yeah.
You know, just learning to not have that instant response.
Yeah.
So that you give yourself a moment to think, is there a better way?
Yeah.
You know, those are things that you can practice, that you can play with friends before you try them out on somewhere more critical, shall we say, somewhere more intimate.
Yeah.
You know, so understanding that, you know, in our talk, we did cover a lot of territory, but it was about getting a practical and different perspective on what is possible.
Yeah.
Because I think people so often really don't know that things can be truly different without a lot of distressing therapeutic processes. You know, because therapy can be wonderful and supportive, and it can also be very, very difficult depending on the style you choose and the therapist that you have. So knowing that there are ways that you can move forward, even if you don't get therapy now, even if maybe it turns out you don't need therapy, you just need to do things differently. So people have a chance to respond to you differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I loved about the program, because there's not that, you know, looking back, trying to understand who to forgive or what do I need to let go of. It's much more empowering. It's actually knowing where you come from, but actually also thinking about how then do I take the first steps forward by really looking at how I communicate, how do I define, what is healthy for me and for my partner, and then making these changes by actually, practicing them week by week.
And getting a chance to, learn new negotiation skills, for example. But there is a part of the course for helping you to release the past.
Yes.
But it's sort of an ongoing process. These are simple skills and techniques that you can use a little bit at a time, over time. Something that you've got for life. Not something only to do during a 6-week course, but to do as much as you need, as often as you need, whenever it pops up that you need it. And I think it's quite nice to feel like you have a whole selection of resources to choose from, rather than I must take this path and this is the only way to change my life. Because we're all unique and we all need tailored processes, and the most important person to tailor them is ourselves. It's good to be heard, it's good to be listened to, and of course we'll have the teleseminars where people can share, and we'll even have private Facebook groups where people can share. But to choose for yourself and say, this, at this time, is the best option I have, and I'm going for it. And, you do what you can, and then when you get to the next level, you do the next thing. That's how life works. It's a journey. And perfection is not required, fortunately, for all of us.
No. Leave that at
the door.
Leave that at the door. No. Thank you so much, Jen. I really want to honor you because you created this program specifically for the summit. And also, you created this because you saw how you, as a living example, can actually help, inspire women who might be in a very dark place at the moment, thinking that, maybe I don't want to be in a relationship, or maybe I have no choice because all relationships are going to end up the same anyways. It's being in a very dark place regarding their expectations about men, about what's healthy, because of because of the history or the current reality that they're facing. So,
but it's also true for people who are in mediocre relationships. They can improve them. They can create healthier relationships.
Yes.
And for people, of course, who are not in a relationship and simply don't feel that they can take the plunge because they don't want to recreate the same thing again. And it's a nice option. This doesn't really matter where somebody is.
Yeah.
You can always have a better relationship.
Starting with you.
Starting with you.
Yes.
Because
It's
when
a
you're
cliche.
happy, you're healthier. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yes.
Anyway.
Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you so much. It is so timely because I think we were referring to the Paralympics.
Yeah.
You know, your past doesn't really matter. It is what you do with what you have right now.
Absolutely.
And if we look at the superhuman feats that have been performed, you know, in London just for the last 2 weeks, and we look at what is possible for us, even if we come from these backgrounds, then, you know, it's not the sky's the limit, but definitely there's much more possible. And I think you and the case studies that you shared with us are a wonderful example. So thank you so much for creating this Radiance Relationships program, and which we will talk about when people listen to the interview. So thank you again, Jen. I know
it's
you're
a pleasure.
very
Thank
busy.
you for inviting me. It's really given me another way of focusing on something which I love, helping, you know, my one-to-one clients, and to be able to bring this to a larger group of people is a joy. It's a real joy. So thank you so much, Angelique.
No, you're very, very welcome. And I think, you know, when we look at the price of the program, it is you know, so affordable compared to maybe working one-on-one. So there is absolutely no impediment for actually reviewing
it's got to
the
be
program.
accessible. You know,
Yeah.
if people, you know, want to begin the journey, they have to have some support along the way. And if we can, between us, offer that to people, then we're doing our job.
Yeah, absolutely. We're changing lives, one interview at a time.
Starting with us and moving out there. That's how it goes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Thanks, Angelique.
We'll talk later. We'll keep in touch. Yes.
Take care.
Okay.
We look forward to that.
Bye-bye.
Bye.